Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, bootleggers, shills, death slicers, peasants, vassals, minions, meat sacks. I'm Useful Idiot. Welcome, and let's go to Syria, where more strange stuff is happening all the time. So, of course, the first big story about big changes coming up in the 2017 foreign policy of the United States under Trump, where theoretically the United States may work with the Assad government, Russia, to stomp out ISIS. But in the meantime, more weird stuff will go on, and two news stories kind of point out once again the shifting winds in Syria. In this case, we have the Syria Air Force strikes at Turkish forces in North Aleppo, including a number of dead and wounded. And depending on the article, the number changes. And now, of course, Ankara, Turkey, says it will retaliate. So we have the potential for more escalation to go on here, but in some ways it gets a little murky because the more articles I've read on it, it shows that it potentially could have been an ISIS truck bomb or something else. They're not really clear, but the fact is the story came out, and there's a lot of reasons for Syria and Turkey maybe to keep this under wraps. But it did get reported, so there's that potential that something could get out of hand. But now we have another combination of events going on in Syria that leaves one scratching their head and wondering what's going to happen next with the Syrian airstrikes against Turkish forces in northern Syria. And of course, one has to point out, for some reason in this day and age, that Assad has every right to use his forces against Turkish invaders in the north of his country. So I'm not really sure what the dilemma is. But then the other part of the story that gets interesting is now we have the Syrian army and the YPG, the Kurdish factions up in northern Syria, launching a joint advance against ISIS in east of Aleppo. So once again, this seems very strange in light of everything that's going on there, all these different combinations. So for a long time, we had Syrian government left the Kurdish regions alone. He had enough to deal with, and the Kurds didn't actively try to topple the Assad government and instead dealt with their own issues. But now, of course, we have the Turkish invasion in northern Syria, wanting to prevent any consolidation of the Kurdish positions up there and the land gains they've made. But now it gets complicated yet again because we have the Syrian army and the YPG working together, which if this trend continues, of course, we can see a point where any talk about a federation or a confederation inside Syria and the Kurdish regions ending up with a lot more autonomy become a little more realistic. And we may end up having the Kurdish region, Rojava in Syria, end up much like the region we have in Iraq. So there you have it. Another airstrike, weird airstrike in Syria. This time Syrian Air Force is striking Turkish forces. And I kind of feel like if you can have a Russian plane shot down and nothing happens, then these things just become interesting footnotes. But let's keep our eyes open. I'm Useful Idiot. Don't you be one too.